All right, the time is 5:30, so I'm going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. Before I get to that, let me just note that we are recording, and if anyone else is recording this meeting, you are required to let me know either now or when you begin recording. I do not see anyone else, so. So on our agenda, we've got a roll call. All of our members are currently here, as you can see. Approval of minutes is also on the agenda, but we don't have any minutes to approve yet. So we will get to that at our next meeting. So that gets us to old business. Review CPC timeline. There are no new items for that. CPC plan draft, incorporating public feedback from public hearing, written comments. I'm just going to say that we have a lot of pre-applications right after this. So I think if there are no objections, we will postpone that until the next meeting.
I thought we kind of reviewed that at our last.
I think we have
mean,
more things.
We
to
hadn't
review.
got the stuff from Kimberly about what
I think that's what we're reviewing.
what the updates, but we'd still seen all the updates, and we're like, yeah, this kind of fits.
Yeah,
fits in. It felt
okay.
Didn't feel like there were any glaring omissions.
Just a reminder that to all the committee members that we have microphones and to turn on your microphone if you're going to speak.
Gotcha.
But you probably got picked up on mine. All right, so hearing no objections, that will go on our next meeting. So now we are at pre-application review for eligibility. And as you can tell, I'm trying to move quickly here because we do have 14 pre-applications. Was that?
True.
Yeah, 14 pre-applications for review. And at our last meeting, we had each applicant sort of introduce the project a bit and go through it. And then we had like a back and forth, but I think a lot of these might be pretty straightforward. And just because we have so many, I think what I'm going to do is introduce, I'll describe what the person wrote in the project description, and then we can either discuss or someone could make a motion at that time, and then we could discuss more. And if we had questions for the applicant, we could ask them if they're here. And maybe we can get through these quickly. We might not get to all of them. And if we don't, we have another meeting in 2 weeks. So we should be able to finish it up then. Or if people want to go long tonight, we might be able to do that too. So we'll see once we get there. All right. So these are in the order in which we received them. So if you are an applicant and we don't get to yours tonight, that's the order that was chosen for these. So first, pre-application for review of eligibility is Greenfield Pickleball Court Expansion. This hopefully all of the committee members they've had access to these pre-applications. So hopefully everyone has read through them already. But this first project says that there's one court at Green River Park. We seek to expand the space available for play at Green River and or develop new space courts elsewhere in the city. And CPA program area checked as open space, recreation, and project purposes checked as creation. So I don't know if there's any discussion or if anyone wants to make a motion.
If I could, I would just say that on the Recreation Commission, we've heard a lot about pickleball. We know that it's extremely popular. I see that both Amy and Christy are here. Obviously, they're collaborating. It seems to me that this fits the criteria. The challenge will be figuring out how to implement it and where. But in terms of the project, I don't see anything that says to me that it doesn't fit into what we're doing. So I would make a motion to move it forward. I
think we were motioning to allow the project to submit a full application.
Right, invite.
We have a
full
comment down here.
application. Yep.
This is a question that will pertain to other ones too, is what if we have questions about, when will we be able to have questions?
Yeah.
To share with the people that they might address?
Yeah, so my thinking was that we can have a motion and second it, and then we can have more discussion. And if we do have like questions or concerns that we want to bring up, we could bring it up at that time. Otherwise, we can just vote if no one has any questions or comments at that time. Okay, well, we had a second down. Dave seconded. Yep. We're a long table tonight. We're a long table. All right, so we had a motion to allow this project to submit a full application, and it was seconded. Are there any questions or comments anyone has on this? Yes.
Just that, and I don't think it falls under the open space, but I think if they put it under recreation creation, it's a thing. I think there's a number of them that will fall under that. And I think I sort of mentioned to Christy at the last meeting, I think we were heading out, like she's going to end up sort of being the gatekeeper on what the capacity of the rec department is, and or the rec commission to work with these various groups to make any of these projects happen.
Yeah, that was something I was going to bring up, was that this would not fall under open space in my estimation as well, because it's not preserving any new open space. And I would also say that it's not actually creation, but it falls under the rehabilitation and restoration, because if you're doing work on an existing park, then that falls under rehabilitation and restoration, I believe, because you're not creating new recreation land in the city. That's my understanding. I don't know if I think Giannis might.
Yeah, so even if you're building a new court, if it's on an existing recreational facility, that counts as rehabilitation. Is that what you're saying?
So my understanding was that prior to the amendments in 2012, you weren't allowed doing work on existing parks because you weren't creating new recreation land. And they added an amendment in saying that restoration and rehabilitation you can rehabilitate an existing park and add to it or update it. And prior to that, you couldn't even do any work on existing park land. So I guess I would just, I mean, that's up for us to decide, I guess, but my understanding was that it would be rehabilitation. You're rehabilitating the park to add new facilities. Yeah, we have a question in the crowd. Yes.
My name is Ron Weaver. I'm not sure about the procedure tonight, but I'm having difficulty hearing you. Is this a public address system you guys are using?
Oh yeah, is there not, are there speakers in here? Sorry, I'm just asking if he knows about speakers.
Were there some last time?
I think so, yeah.
We were amplified.
Test. Yeah, that's not working.
Okay. Yeah, so.
Can you hear me now? Not really.
No.
So, sorry, so we had a
We'll
question
talk
from
louder.
the audience about whether there is a PA system in the room, and there,
don't think it's working.
yeah, I think there is.
I'm wondering about this.
I'm not sure we know how to turn it on, so I'll try to speak louder. But these microphones, I think, were primarily because we're also broadcasting this online, and we need to pick up our voices that way. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll try to speak up.
Project.
I think we have a comment in the back here.
Hi, thank you. I didn't know if you were entertaining comments from the floor. I just wanted to ask if applicants have additional information subsequent to the pre-application, will that be allowed?
So there was a question about if an applicant has additional information that was presented after the application was submitted, the pre-application. Yeah, I think once we get to that application, if if we need clarification, I mean, if it's something that we think can go ahead already, then then I think it might not need it. But yeah, I think so. Yeah. Are there any other? We just had a member leave, so,
She is going to see if she can get the PA system working.
okay.
It's none of those buttons.
Okay, none of the buttons. We don't know how to turn on the PA system. Sorry about that. Christian's gonna see if he can figure it out
Okay.
while we continue. Yeah,
Travis, for the purpose of everybody here being on the same page, I think it's important to understand that what we're deciding tonight is not whether we like your project or whether we don't like your project, but whether or not it meets the criteria of the Community Preservation Act, and therefore you can move ahead with it in terms of doing a full proposal. That's really what we're doing at this point. And then we'll get a full proposal from you at the end of November, and that's the next step on this.
okay, yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments about this pre-application? No, okay, hearing none, there was a motion. Yeah, question? Oh, okay, yeah, so we'll vote on the motion, which was to allow this project to move forward with a full application. All in favor? All right, that is unanimous. So I guess I'll say all opposed, but no one's opposed. Okay, so Greenfield pickleball expansion can move forward with a full application. The next pre-application is from Phil Elmer, restoration of Highland Pond. And I'll just read in the description on this one. It said that this is a 4-phase project. First phase is clear duckweed that is choking the oxygen supply. Second phase, identify sources of nutrients flowing into the pond. Third phase, explore dredging. And fourth phase, seek funding for dredging. And CPA program areas checked are open space and recreation. And the project purpose is rehabilitation or restoration. Are there any comments or motions? Yes.
I guess I want to make the motion first so that we can have discussion.
Sure.
Okay, so I move that this move forward.
Okay, motion to move forward.
Second.
Okay, that was seconded and yes.
I have, and I do have one one thing is that I don't know if this is both open space and recreation. It seems to be more open space, but that can be discussed and argued. My big question is, if this is an application that is going to be seeking funds at this point, if that's part of the goal, that doesn't fit in with our efforts to have things happen generally within the year after the application is supported. So I'm wondering if this is premature for this application, and I don't know if Counselor Elmer is here. I don't see him. But it seems to me that that's something that needs to be discussed, because if it's a project that's ready to go, then that's different than one that is going to use our funds to seek other funds, because that's not, first of all, the purpose of our funds. And secondly, it doesn't mean that, it means that it won't be going forward within this year, probably.
And just to follow up on what you said about it being maybe not open space, CPA funds are not allowable for support or rehabilitation or restoration of open space unless the open space was acquired with CPA money. So yeah, I think it would not qualify for open space funding for that purpose. But the recreation, would be. Yeah, we have Tom. Tom, could you turn on your microphone? Sorry.
I can't imagine anything in town more important than restoring Highland Pond. It's just, there's so much good use that can be done up there. My question is that I'm not opposed to this. I want that clear. But it seems that that is a major area in town for passive rec and hiking and maybe getting skating back there, and other things. It would seem that that would be, the restoration of that area would be a capital improvement of the city. And it may be a multi-year capital improvement. Okay, you can't, but I think we could help with some of the studies that need to be done, especially this first phase piece. But I'd like to see how the city partners with the CPC on a project that is multi-phased and is going to, I'm sure, be very expensive over time. And then how will it be maintained?
Mhm. Okay, yeah. Yeah, another question.
This comes up to an issue that I was going to bring up. Numerous of these projects could really be coordinated, but it's going to take a bigger effort. So, and we're getting to see how these might fit together because we're receiving requests from you all. So I'm not sure what we can do with that information that would legally fall within our purview, but I know that personally, I've been working on a project that's going to be multi-year. I mean, I hope to get permission from a different source and stuff, but there's so many different phases that need help with funding. So I think that that for numerous of these projects, they're going to take 4 or 5 or 6 years, but it needs this little piece of funding and this little piece of funding or thousands of dollars of funding. So I think that I think multi-year is okay
Yeah.
over the phase.
And I guess another thing that I would add is that, right now we're deciding on whether these are eligible or not. And, perhaps there's a project that is eligible, but maybe, if we got the full application, we might not think it's complete enough to actually fund it. That would be like in the part of the second phase, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the real question for right now is if this is open space and this is a rehabilitation and restoration project, like can we fund it, or is there a way that it could be restructured?
Well,
that it could be
they did
funded?
also have recreation checked. So,
Yeah.
it could be a recreation, rehabilitation and restoration. If you're thinking the pond being used for recreation purposes. Yeah.
So my question was about the order of things in terms of environmental concerns. Obviously, the Conservation Commission would need to have a hand in this, and it's step 3 to explore dredging and environmental hurdles, but step 1 is clearing the duckweed. So I don't think that that's something you can even do without engaging the Conservation Commission. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and I think a lot of these projects might need other sorts of like permitting and stuff. But we're like one box to be checked, and then that's up to the applicants to check all the other boxes. And it's up to us to decide in the next step, if we have a full application, whether we think they're prepared to do all the other steps, I guess. So, yeah, I think this step is more, is this, allowable for CPA funding? And I guess one question I had was, on the first phase, clearing the duckweed. So we're not allowed funding like regular maintenance type projects. And I didn't know, like, to me personally, I was like, is that like a maintenance thing that, maybe the city's not doing it, but maybe the city could be doing that? Or if it's a big enough thing to be considered a capital project in and of itself. Yeah.
It just strikes me that what we're asking is that this needs really to be fleshed out in a much more major way for us to be able to understand what the process is and whether they're able to meet whatever their goals are initially. And we need the fuller explanation in order to make that determination in some ways.
So just to clarify, are you saying to determine whether it's eligible?
I'm saying though, whether eligible, I think I guess it's the funding, but the eligibility kind of in some ways is dependent on what they choose to concentrate on and how that concentration is developed, because all of these things are possible under the plan, but probably what we have in terms of money is not going to cover it all. So the question is, what are the concentrations, and do they need a permit for the duckweed? And if so, is that in process? All of those kinds of questions. So moving it forward will help us understand it better.
So that would be for the full application.
Correct.
We would need to know those things. Yeah, Garth.
Yeah, it's just sort of to follow up on that, like they could certainly send something in. I mean, I think if they focused on the recreation and the rehabilitation, it would fall under that category. You know, this one especially has a huge number of caveats, and they, I mean, they're welcome to like go through all the work to do it, but I personally wouldn't vote for it on like, oh well, we're gonna try to like take the duckweed. I don't know, the ducks have been eating the duckweed, so if you're just like, we want to make a skating rink there, cool, talk to the rec department, talk to the Concom, talk to the people who are going to give you the $4 million to dredge it, figure that all out. But I mean, I think it would be eligible under that. I don't think it's a good idea, but
That's
I'm
step two.
right. I'm not going to tell them to like, don't, that you're not eligible to apply,
Mhm.
and just that I won't vote for it.
Okay. I think we have a question from Tom down here. Oh, you turned it off.
Here we go. I know that this area is in the master plan. Okay, the Highland Pond, it's in the town's master plan in the recreation piece area or the open space area, I don't recall. My question, I guess, would be for Christie, if I could. Has the city done a master plan to rejuvenate the Highland Park area? Is there anything that is on the, even if it's got dust on it, that's been done on the whole area restoration? Has the city engaged any consultancy to do a master plan for the renovation of the Highland Pond area? I guess that's the short way to say it.
Travis, are you okay for me to respond?
Oh, sorry, Christy, hold on a second.
Fine.
We can't hear you. I think Christian thought he had it figured out, but okay, can you try again?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry I asked, Christie.
We could hear it before. Was
Can
that
you hear me
coming
now?
through your laptop?
It's okay.
Well, she needs to be able to speak.
Yeah, we need. Okay, try now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can barely, you guys are like this tall on my screen, so I can't see you.
We've gotten shorter over time, Christy.
So to answer your question, not in the years of service since I've been here, no.
Okay.
It's always been talked about, but we have not allocated money in our capital plan to do any study, and to my knowledge, neither with Conservation Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Could you turn that down? All right. Did everyone in the room hear that? Christy was just saying that no, the city has not done a plan like that since she's been here. Okay, so
Call the question.
all right, calling the question. So the question was to allow this project to move forward with a full application. That was seconded. All in favor?
As a recreation rehabilitation,
Yeah.
provided they apply under
Based on the
correct
comments that we
category.
had. All right, all opposed? Okay, I think that was unanimous. All right. So the restoration of Highland Pond project can move forward with a full application. All right, next we have 3 projects by the Recreation Department. Yeah, So first up, we have Beacon Park improvements. Christy Moore submitted this project. This would be the installation of two new bocce courts on the western side of Garrett Street across from the main field area. Also replacement of two existing water fountains at the tennis court and baseball fields with ADA accessible fountains and bottle fillers. ADA pathways would be installed to the fountains and courts. Partial funding was granted for this project in fiscal year 22 capital budget, but additional funding will be required to complete this project. And program areas that are checked are recreation, and the project purpose is creation. Do we have any questions or comments or a motion?
Well, let's get a motion so we can talk about it.
Sure.
I'll move that this go forward for a full application.
Second.
All right, motion to move forward was seconded. And are there questions or comments on this one, either amongst us or for Christy?
Just a quick. Off again. Just a quick and hopefully not funny question, but is there any thought of restoring the bocce courts that were at the Vets Fieldhouse? Back a long time ago, but they used to have bocce courts right on the Silver Street side of the Vets Fieldhouse.
If I can answer, Travis, I have never heard that there were bocce courts over there, so I would say no.
Okay. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but there were two courts there.
Okay, any other? Yeah, Garth.
I mean, I guess just in terms of as long as it's allowable and, per your previous comment about, we're not creating new space, but we're creating new facilities at a space. So as long as this falls under the rehabilitation, yeah, I mean, you put a bocce court. You can certainly put the application in. Maybe some people would like it at the vets thing in general, but that's not really our decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, seems like a.
So you're suggesting that it would be a rehabilitation, recreation rehabilitation project. Yeah.
Only if we're not allowed to do
Yeah.
creation. It seems like it's creating of facilities at a existing recreation area.
Yeah, so I was just going to read real quick in the CPA legislation for the definition of rehabilitation. It says capital improvements are making extraordinary repairs to historic resources, open space, lands for recreation use, yada, yada, yada. It goes on, including but not limited to improvements to comply with Americans with Disabilities Act, which is relevant to this one. And then it also specifically says, and provided further, this is the part that was added, that with respect to land for recreational uses, rehabilitation shall include the replacement of playground equipment and other capital improvements to the land or facilities thereon, which make the land or the related facilities more functional for the intended recreational use. And that was the part that was added in 2012 to allow work on existing recreation lands. So
that sounds like that would certainly fit.
So are there any other questions or comments on this one or? Okay, so we can vote on the motion, which is to allow this project to move forward. All in favor? Aye. All right. Anyone opposed? Nope, that was unanimous. Okay, so that one, the Beacon Park improvements can move forward with a full application. The next pre-application we have is also from Christy Moore, Recreation Department. This one is Shattuck Fitness Cluster. And the description says, fitness cluster was originally included in the design for the renovation of Shattuck Park in 2015, but was not able to be completed due to budget constraints. The space was still allocated in the layout for its future installation. The fitness cluster would include a group of upper body resistance equipment designed to instill fun into everyday fitness. Yeah, there's just more description here. Yeah, so that would be the project, installing this fitness equipment. Is there a motion?
I would move to allow it. It seems like a similar
Oh.
sort of thing, adding,
Yeah.
you know, I guess it would be under the recreation, rehabilitation, restoration per the CPA laws, but it would be a, you know, adding equipment to make that particular park more functional, adding like the paracourse
Okay.
kind of things.
Second.
All right, and that was seconded by Dave. All right, is there any further discussion on this? I guess I actually have a question for Christy on this. Sorry, Christian, that you have to keep turning your laptop on. So my question was, is this equipment like permanently affixed to a specific location? Because I know CPA funding can't be used for equipment that is like movable or, you know, like soccer balls or, you know, things like that that can move from the site. So I was just wondering if it was like permanently affixed to the ground.
It will be within the existing footprint of the Shattuck playground. There's a large section that's left open. And I have a picture that, I don't know if I can screen share, but I can show you guys, but it's like a square and it just has like push up, pull up kind of things all the way around, so that like even the gym classes at the high school can use it. Those that are walking on the pathway, they can you know, bring their family, use the playground and get a little workout while their kids swinging. It's permanent.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we can vote on the motion to allow this one to move forward with a full application. All in favor? Aye. All right, anyone opposed? Nope. So that one moves forward as well. Next pre-application, also from Christy Moore, Recreation Department. This is citywide outdoor site amenities. This one has recreation and creation checked again. So this one's a little more detailed, so I'm just gonna read the whole thing. The proposed citywide outdoor amenities include interactive play amenities such as concrete, chess, ping pong tables, foosball, and cornhole boards that will enhance Greenfield's vibrancy by creating unexpected opportunities that change the way people play in public spaces. These amenities become social hubs, fostering positive social interactions, collaboration, and connection, allowing everyone to play and learn. This proposal also includes solar charging picnic tables where the table itself will harness green solar energy to create a space where the community can sit, relax, and enjoy Greenfield's parks and public spaces, all while charging their electronic devices. These tables also create an opportunity for community members to work remotely from public spaces. Additionally, in support of Greenfield's active cycling community, this request includes installing bike racks in additional parks and public spaces. So
I'll make a motion to move it forward.
could you turn on your microphone just so?
I'll make a motion to move this one forward.
Second.
All right, the motion was seconded. And questions and comments? Yes, Giannis.
Same comment that things need to be affixed to the ground. So cornhole boards probably wouldn't count unless they're festooned.
Yeah, and I guess a question I had was, yeah, I had the same comment about things, you know, needing to be like a permanent structure. I was also wondering if these are all going to be on recreation land, or if any of them were planned for like non-recreation city land, because I'm not sure the eligibility if it's not on like you know, land that's specifically protected for recreation purposes. I don't know if Christie.
Like if it was
yeah,
Court Square additions or something.
So our intent is on obviously city-owned land, whether it be in a park, somewhere downtown, or on a school. We've had multiple conversations with the school about that as well. And these are concrete structures. It's just like the chess table that we bought and installed at the top of Fisk Ave. And they are, that one is attached to the sidewalk. Well, concrete, it's not really, it's off the sidewalk. And that's would be the same thing. The cornhole boards are concrete and would be attached to the ground as well. The reason why we're doing concrete is because they're harder to damage, and certainly you can't throw them in a truck unless you have lots of people.
Okay, yeah.
Christy, I guess one of the things, just so you know, one of the things that in looking at this, that we're going to have to figure out is whether it needs to be designated recreation space or whether it's providing recreation within the bounds of the city. So for instance, if you put something up at the possibility of the downtown, at the common, where we now have it broke off, is that officially a recreation space or not? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it fits in with the law. We were going to have to research that. So you should just know that that is going to be part of what we're going to be trying to figure out, because we just don't know.
Yeah, thanks for that. All right, any other questions or comments? Yep, Tom's got something.
On some of the newer parks, like the new park off of Fisk Avenue, the Pocket Park there, and Energy Park, I don't know about Energy Parks. I'm just going to speak about the one I know about. When the city plans these parks and gets funding for like a pocket park or a small park, why aren't things like bike racks built into the cost of the park and put in as an amenity as you build the park?
I guess that's a question for Christy.
Yeah, to respond, so at Fisk Ave, the bike rack has been ordered, it just hasn't arrived yet. So when I build projects, we do include those kind of things. Some of the existing old parks that we haven't renovated don't all have bike racks, so that's where some of these things would go.
Okay,
Like
Thank
Beacon,
you.
for example, doesn't have any bike racks.
okay, thank you. Thanks for the answer.
All right, any other questions or comments on this one?
Call the question.
Okay, all right, so we will vote to allow this project to move forward with a full application. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, one opposed. And anyone abstaining? No, okay, so that motion passes 8 votes for and 1 against. Tom. Okay, so next on the agenda is Joy Whitbeck et al. Improving park access. And so this description says it would support the enjoyment of our city's natural spaces with basic signage in the Highland Park and Poet Seat Tower, Rocky Mountain Ridge areas to communicate expectations of behavior for visitors and assist in direction at trail intersections. Possible expansion now or in the future to other parks. Removal of graffiti and ceiling to help protect Poet Seat Tower. And they're interested in hearing the committee's recommendations regarding these. And then program areas checked are open space, historic preservation, recreation, and project purpose checked are preservation, support, and rehabilitation or restoration. So anyone want to make a motion?
Straw motion to accept the project or to allow the project to approve.
Okay, is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. And is there any questions or comments? Giannis?
Yeah, to me, this one, I think, needs to be a lot more specific about what is implied in the project. It's not clear to me exactly what this one is seeking to do. So I guess going into a final application, that would be what I would be looking for just as a comment. And then I'm also not, because I'm not quite sure, is this like an open space restoration? Is it adding new stuff? You know, like that whole series of questions that we've had for some of these other applications, I think are especially applicable here.
I think we do have the applicant here if you want to ask any direct questions. I think Joy over here.
Yeah, could you maybe explain a little bit more?
Can you come to the?
Oh yeah, if you could come up to the mic, please. Thanks. And just hit the button to turn it on. Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm Joy Whitbeck. So the main idea of the project is we have these great open spaces and we have those great new signs identifying the park, but we don't have anything that says like, welcome to your Highland Park. Please pick up after your dog. Please don't trash the area. Please, there's basic info kind of direction for expectations within the park. I know especially Highland Park, dogs off leash are a big concern for a lot of people there. So just having little reminders of those kind of things. And then also just basic trail markings for navigating within the main paths would be very helpful for people to get around the park.
I guess the first question is whether you've coordinated with Christy Moore in the Recreation Department at all.
So I have reached out to Christy and to the Recreation Commission just to send them the pre-application and give them a general idea of the plan. And they've both been receptive to work with us to see where we could go with it. So obviously the full application will have a lot more details and official approval from different, interested parties. But at this point, I thought it was just kind of the bare bone basics to see if it would go through to that point.
Yeah. Okay. And just to clarify for everyone, the reason I asked that question is because this is city property, the money will have to go to the department that oversees that property. So if this project were to be approved ultimately, Christy Moore and the Recreation Department would get the funding for it. And then, if you or whoever could be, like partnering with Christy and could be like a project manager or whatever, like that's up to you guys to work out, but that's just how the funding has to work.
Okay.
Did I see a hand down here? Yeah, Tom.
On the tower and the graffiti and that type of thing, are there any other thoughts of other preservation of the tower itself? Is there anything?
From my uneducated view of it, the tower structurally looks fine. It just looks disgusting with graffiti on every inch of it.
Okay. I think the interpretive signs are great. I think the rules signs are something the city should do. This should be just like they have at the swimming pool. At each of the parks, the city should put those signs up on behavior and expectations.
So do you think that would exclude it from the CPA funding or?
It may not. It would probably exclude me from voting for it in CPA money, but.
So,
Yeah.
so I think signage is hugely important. And it would be real important to be clear about what you want to do with the signs. Do you want them to be educational? Do you want them to, they could be so rich and they could just improve the area so incredibly. And my guess is that there would even be some national funding that could, support developing those because they're extremely costly. I think it's a fantastic idea and I would love to see it developed just like I explained.
For more of that, yeah. So I guess that's, sorry, I had two thoughts, but the tower versus the trails, would you see these as like one project or as two separate applications? The restoration of the beauty of Poet Seat Tower versus signage on the parking lots and trails. Are those two separate projects or are those one kind of?
Yeah, go ahead.
Personally, I see them as two projects. Like the Poet Seat Tower is a historical, artifact of the town,
Mhm.
and preserving that is like a thing in itself. And then improving the signage in our open spaces is probably a separate, because they're kind of like different funding categories, even in
Mhm.
our own parlance.
Did you have? Okay. Yeah.
I think it could even be more than two projects because, it's one thing to say park here and clean up. It's another thing to have educational signs. It's another thing to have historic signs.
Mhm.
And all of those would be so valuable and they would improve the whole setting so much. So I just think that you have a wonderful project and it's big. Take it on.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is we're going to be around for a while, at least we plan to be. So thinking of what you want to do first and perhaps coming to us with that, and then looking at this as a long-term project that you can come back to us next year.
We can add to, yeah.
So we don't have that much money anyway. So it's, if we spread it around, you're probably not going to get everything you ask for. So.
Go ahead, Garth.
I was just going to say, Wisty's enthusiasm aside, the application is, other than splitting between Poet Seat, which may be more of a historical and possibly is like general maintenance that the city could be doing. like all the wayfinding, the pre-app at least mentions, sort of wayfinding in general, that very much feels like a really good, first step, like, hey, we're gonna try this out. It'll be a reasonably small amount of money. Maybe they're metal signs, maybe like we find someone with a router and we're like, hey, go left here. This is what used to be the red trail, or whatever. So I think that seems like a plausible first step.
Yeah, I guess I was just going to add with the with Poet Seat Tower, removal of graffiti. Excuse me. To me, I think that seems more like maintenance, like city maintenance, and we're not allowed funding city maintenance type projects. But if it was like a more extensive historical restoration of the entire structure, I think that would be beyond what's in this pre-application, but I think that would be like an allowable project. But to me personally, I think just removal of graffiti is more like a city maintenance type project that we're not allowed
Different
to
meeting. I'll
fund.
have to go to a different meeting for that one.
I'm sorry.
I'll have to go to a different meeting.
Yeah, next year.
We'll get you
Yeah,
the last.
Giannis.
Christy has her hand up. So
Oh,
I just
okay.
want to.
Christy's got her hand up over here. Let's.
Hello. So just so that everyone knows, the graffiti we are aware of, and there has been a work order in the system. It's just a matter of finding the staff to take care of it. So it is on our to-do list and we are aware. And then just for greater details, like Joy and I have not met, we've discussed it with the Rec Commission, but once we get the approval to move forward, then we'll fine tune and work with Joy on the application, because the Rec Commission and the Rec Department certainly have plans on how to work with Joy and how to move this forward.
Okay, thanks. That's good to know. So
Call the question?
I was actually going to make a motion to amend the previous motion to exclude the graffiti removal from being allowable, because I think it is city maintenance. So,
Second.
okay. So any other discussion on that motion? Okay. All in favor of voting to remove the graffiti removal from the allowable? Okay. All right, and there are none opposed, so that is unanimous. So, okay, so calling the question now. So we're voting to allow this project to move forward with full application, with the exception of the graffiti removal. And all in favor of that? All right, anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, no one is abstaining. Okay, so that project can move forward with the exception of the graffiti. All right. So next on the list is Michael McIntyre, pump track. I think that's us. It's coming from inside the house. Okay, so this next one is a pump track at Murphy Park. Says currently exploring details with Christy Moore, and an email was sent with a picture showing that this is like a like a track with ramps and stuff for bicycles. And so the program areas checked are recreation, open space, and creation. And anyone want to make a motion on that one or discuss it? Questions? Yeah.
Sure. I was just gonna say, I mean, this, per our legal requirements, it probably falls under the recreation, rehabilitation, restoration. Like Murphy Park exists as a thing that's adding additional recreation facilities at the park. I would motion that it's certainly a plausible thing within the law.
So you're motioning that it can move forward with a full application?
Yes, motion to move forward.
Second.
All right, we got a second.
So
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Yeah, so I saw an email with a picture that it's basically it's like a bike track, like basically bring in a lot of dirt and like build a bunch of like ramps and jumps and things like that for bicycles.
It's kind of like a skate park for like mountain bikes and BMX bikes.
I think there was one there years ago, right?
Yeah, there was dirt, there were.
There was like a BMX track,
Yeah.
like in the 80s. There was
Okay.
one built there. It was a big deal.
Christy, you were gonna talk?
Yeah, I have a picture of one, like, I don't know if I can screen share, but if you need it tonight, but obviously if it moves forward with the full application, we can show you more photos. I'm not sure who did mention, but there used to be a BMX track exactly where we want to put this, which I didn't realize until we were moving forward with this location. So that was interesting. It's just basically,
Yeah, and I guess another comment that I would add is that it doesn't have the recreation department as an applicant on here, and that it would require the recreation department to be a co-applicant for the full application. Tom?
I think if it goes forward, there's gotta be a real better cost breakdown other than about $1 million or about because this would be a multi-year commitment of funds to make this happen. If we're the only, if CPC is the only funder.
Well, none of the applications have any amounts or say where else they're
guess
getting.
This one just hits me as it's gonna
be even more pricey.
big one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of our, like, once we have a full application, that's part of the thing, is like looking at it and be like, I mean, part of our criteria is like, are you getting funding from
Right.
other places, and is this just filling
I
in?
can figure out the cost of signs or a pickleball court. But what would be a BMX type, that's not gonna be cheap, that's all. That's.
Right.
I think John had a question.
Yeah, I know the town kind of uses that space, that like they store like logs and trees and lumber and whatnot there. I don't know if that's, it's something that they intend to do, if that's space that they need for other things. Christy might know more about it, but yeah, but again, the space was there before as a BMX park, and I've definitely walked around in there, and it's kind of ratty, and it would be nice to see something done with it for sure. But I don't know what the town's intent is.
Okay. And another comment that I had was, again, I don't think this is open space because it's not preserving any new open space. And I think it would be rehabilitation and restoration, as Garth said. So it'd be recreation, rehabilitation, and restoration. So do we think this is an allowable project? Are there any other comments or questions regarding that? Or all right, so we can vote on the motion to allow this project to move forward. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Nope. Okay, that was unanimous. So that one is also moving forward with for a full application. Okay, and the next one on the agenda is Franklin County Baseball Association, Abercrombie Field Bathroom Rehabilitation. This one has checked recreation and rehabilitation restoration. The project description says a concrete block bathroom building housing both the men's and women's requires a new roof immediately. There's currently a low slope roof with a hole allowing rain and debris into the men's room. The roof should be upgraded to a pitched roof to allow better runoff. Depending on professional inspection and valuation, this may also require a new roof system, wiring and lighting, sink cabinets, sinks and faucets, toilets, and paint. Additionally, FCBA requests funding, as may be required by Eversource, to move the electrical services from the street to Abercrombie Field off a leaning pole near the field entrance gate. Abercrombie Field is a City of Greenfield Park property used exclusively by the FCBA and its Babe Ruth League. See attached photos and agreement. And they did send a copy of the use and terms agreement for Abercrombie Field. That hopefully everyone, it's a one-page thing that it does say that the league recognizes that ownership of the property and all structures remain with the town of Greenfield and agrees to consult with Recreation Department before disposal or removal of existing amenities at the park, such as building lights and other structures. the property shall remain open for citizens to use. That's just a small quote from that. So are there questions or comments or a motion?
Mike?
Anyone?
I make a motion to move it forward.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by John to move forward with a full application, and that was seconded. Any further discussion, Giannis?
Yeah, I think similar to the Poet Seat Tower conversation, this seems to me kind of like ordinary maintenance of the bathroom facility, even if it is in really dire condition.
I don't think it meets the criteria.
Sorry, Tom, you don't think it meets the criteria for maintenance or?
I think the project as described is a renovation of an existing facility. There's not a historic purpose. This is a capital issue. This is this is a city issue to maintain these. This is not a CPA. And I don't think as it's described, it meets the technical specification for the work to be done at Abercrombie. I'm not opposed to the work being done at Abercrombie. Please don't misunderstand me. I just don't think the way this is described that it meets CPC guidelines.
I just wanted to add to play devil's advocate here. Under rehabilitation in the CPA legislation, it says that with respect to land for recreational uses, rehabilitation shall include the replacement of playground equipment and other capital improvements to the land or facilities thereon, which make the land or the related facilities more functional for the intended recreational use. So,
but it
maybe.
doesn't. It's functional. There's bathrooms there now. They may not be very nice. You're not increasing the functionality.
I think you're increasing the functionality if people don't get electrocuted when they go to the bathroom.
Well, that we're not going to be spending money on. That would be Eversource.
No, they're asking to not have the roof leak into the electrical panel in the bathroom.
I think this goes back to like what we were talking about with the fairgrounds.
The fairgrounds aren't a recreational facility. Under the CPC, we're allowed to do rehabilitation of recreational facilities. This is part of a recreational facility.
That's fine. I appreciate your point of view on it. I disagree.
And we have a comment down there.
I think the question becomes, is this repair or is it rehabilitation? And that the obviously nothing's been done to these buildings for a while, and that's the reason they're in the state they're in. But is that a question of the buildings needing repair, or is this truly a rehabilitation process?
Yeah,
Christy has her
oh,
hand up.
Christy, yes.
My comment is that if obviously the roof needs to be fixed, this organization, I'm not sure if anybody is present in the room. I can't tell who's here.
Yes, we do.
But we work very closely with Tina Crocker. Maybe that's who's raising her hand. I only see the back of your head, sorry. And funds in these youth organizations are basically from families and volunteers, and they're seeking some financial help with this. I will say that if it is supported, the bathrooms themselves are not ADA compliant, so we certainly can push that way so that people can have better access to the bathrooms and would be compliant.
I just wanted to add one thing about this being a structure on recreational land, because typically structures like indoor structures are not allowable for CPA funding on recreational land, but bathroom facilities. So I'm reading from the Community Preservation Coalition's website right now, and it says, although a bathroom facility is technically a structure, DOR has also stated that to the extent that any such structure any such structures are, quote, reasonably necessary to directly support the use of the outdoor recreational facility, they would be allowable. The example they cited was a bathroom facility at a town beach. Although indoors, the bathroom is not a structure being used for recreation itself, as those types of structures aren't allowed, but it does directly support and is necessary for the outdoor recreational use. Equipment storage sheds are another such example. So
I guess we'd wait for the full application if it goes forward. I can see what Christy was saying, if we are going to renovate to the point to make them accessible, they're gonna be to size. That's a renovation that makes sense. To patch the roof that's probably been leaking for years should have been something that had been taken care of by the city, since the city owns the facility. I think putting the new stuff on is something that I could, but that's maintenance. The roof and stuff is maintenance.
I just want to speak to Tina. That's the struggle that we're going to have when we review the application, is how much of this is maintenance, how much of this is rehabilitation. That's going to be the question, because we are not allowed to fund maintenance. So it's not merely like, well, I don't like this. It's much more has to do with what the requirements of the law are. So as you're writing this, think about that as being something that you need to be clear about for us.
And
Thanks.
I just have a comment or maybe a question for Christy. I know that sent along with this was a use and terms agreement that allows them to use the structures, and I think there's something in there about maintaining them. But I think for CPA purposes, we can't give money to an outside organization to do work on a city property. So I think this would be another one where the recreation department would have to be a co-applicant, and the money would have to go to the recreation department, because this is city structures on city property. Just wanted to point that out. And I don't know if maybe you have a question.
Yeah, no, I'm aware. I have a binder of all these projects, so.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
I was confused reading it. It seemed like from the pre-application that it was suggesting that it just is used for baseball, right?
Yeah, if you could come up to the microphone, that would be great. Thanks. Yeah, it's off now.
Okay.
You're on.
Yes, according to that usage agreement, we have sole use of it at the moment. If there's other organizations that want to use it, generally Christy will contact us and ask what our schedule is for practices, games, and whether that other organization can come in. So yes, it is a public park.
Yep. Because when I was reading then what the town agreement was, the town agreement says that it can be used by anybody when the baseball games are not, or when the baseball. So that I didn't quite understand who was going to use it, but one of the issues in town is having bathrooms available to people who are around and about. And if that bathroom is fixed, I would just like to know, is it going to be available to people or is it not?
No, the building itself is locked. So it's not like a porta potty that anybody could just walk up and use. Their doors are locked, and which we have the key in the field house. So no, it's not in that respect. No, it's not a public. But during the games, yes, all the spectators, the players, the coaches, anybody there for that purpose uses that bathroom.
Yeah, I think Christy's got something.
Thanks. I just wanted to share, it's just like Lunt Fields and Murphy Park. We have an agreement with those organizations, and the bathrooms are open for when Little League is playing and the minor league, and obviously the girls softball. So it's the same concept, just at Abercrombie.
And I appreciate that Christy mentioned that, yes, they are not ADA compliant. I had only a very small space on your application, didn't get all of that in, but yes, that is also a concern of ours.
That would have been a biggie in there.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments before we vote on this? Let me just double check. Oh yeah, it said recreation and rehabilitation. Okay. All right, hearing no more comments, we can vote on allowing this to move forward with a full application. All in favor? Aye. All right, that is unanimous. So that one can also move forward with a full application. So next we have Ginny Disorder, Greenfield High School track ADA access. This one has checked recreation, creation, and support. It says track is non-compliant ADA access, not a continuous common surface. I think there was a photo that was sent, but there was an additional email too that I don't know if everyone got this, but oh, it's in the packet that yeah, he put it together. Okay.
I would motion to move this one.
Okay. All right. We have a second. Yeah. Susan. Does anyone have any specific questions for Christy regarding this project or anyone else?
I just question maybe for you, Travis, can we fund stuff at the high school? Does that count?
Yeah, that was a question that I had for Christy maybe was, is this actually a recreation? Like, would the high school have to be, I don't know who manages the land, like, would the high school itself have to be the applicant maybe if this is on high school property, or does the recreation department manage some of the recreational facilities at the high school?
I do not manage the ball fields, but I know it's open to the public. And for some reason, when the high school renovation and the track was created, there is like a gap in the photos that I shared with Ginny from the sidewalk to get to the track. And then there's bleachers, and there's not a pathway for somebody to get to the bleachers to watch the track and field event. Obviously, the school is a city property, so I'm not sure how that fits into the mix as an applicant.
All right. Yeah. Donna.
Christy, can you speak to I know you just mentioned that you don't control the fields, but can you speak to other ways that you collaborate with the schools and things that you do have some responsibility for?
Sure. I guess I'm not 100% clear which way you're going, Donna, but all the, like at Beacon, the high school and middle school and uses Beacon, and so we work together for scheduling. DPW maintains all of the ball fields, and then like Vets Field is actually deeded Parks and Recreation. The school obviously has first use of that, and then like the tennis courts are ours. Like the city and the rec department redid those so that the high school can have courts. So it's kind of a shared use. But I don't do any programming on the track. We did try to do a summer track program, and then I just ran out of staff. So potentially in the future we may do more programming there. But I just thought it was important to have ADA access for our community.
I believe you do work with the playground equipment.
Oh, sorry, Donna. Yeah, all of the anything outside of the school facility falls to Parks and Rec. So every playground that has been built and renovated has been managed and designed through my office.
Sorry, I'll get to you. I just wanted to add real quick that in the CPA law, the definition of recreational use, it says active or passive recreational use, including but not limited to the use of land for community gardens, trails, non-commercial youth and adult sports, and the use of land as a park, playground, or athletic field. Recreational use shall not include horse or dog racing or land use for a stadium, gymnasium, or similar structure. So just wanted to clarify that a little.
Yeah, I'm just still confused whether this is a school department issue or whether this is a Parks and Rec issue. in terms of getting the ADA, getting this ADA compliant.
But John,
Yeah, I mean, like Christy said, I mean, the track and the schools are maintained by DPW. But the school itself doesn't, they don't supervise that. Obviously, they would all go through DPW to facilitate that work. In my opinion, having gone to track meets and what there, it's an oversight. There shouldn't be like a little section of grass between here and there. It seems like a pretty obvious need. But I think that reaching out to DPW and having them as a co-applicant is the right thing to do. So I think I would say if we were going to move forward with it, we'd have to have input from them to say, okay, yeah, this is something that we support, it's something we're going to do. Because it falls more under them than under Parks and Rec, I think.
yeah, I guess the question is if the city was giving a department funding to build this, who would they be giving it to? And so that's who we would need to be giving
Yeah, I
it
think
to
it would be
as well.
central maintenance. I think probably.
Mhm. Okay. Oh, Christy, did you have something else to add?
I was just gonna say, I certainly can talk with the superintendent and have the school be a co-applicant as well. But like Donna pointed out, like all of the parks and school playgrounds, all that has funneled through me. So I certainly can work with DPW to make this happen.
Okay. Again, I just want to go back to the program areas, recreation, and it has creation and support checked, but I think it would probably be a rehabilitation and restoration again. I think that's just, if you're not creating new, protected land for recreation purposes, I think it would have to be rehabilitation and restoration. Any other questions or comments before we vote on this one? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote on moving this project forward to a full application. All in favor? Aye. All right, that is unanimous. So that one is also moving forward. Christy will have her hands full with a lot of projects to do full applications for. Okay, so then,
Hopefully support full application.
yeah, support
The
them.
people that are
Yeah.
working on.
All right, so the next one is Museum of Our Industrial Heritage, restore shop equipment. This one has historic preservation checked, project purpose, preservation, rehabilitation, restoration. And there's a description of, it's for restoring an antique Goodell Pratt light machine shop to be used as an active display in the museum. The museum currently owns and is storing all of the rare machinery components of this display and would like to restore and assemble them to working order for museum guests to enjoy. Any questions or comments or motions?
I move that we accept this.
Okay, motion seconded by Donna. I just wanted to add that I did reply when this application came in, I did reply and let them know that any historic preservation projects, the object that's being preserved needs to be either on the state register of historic places or things or whatever it's called, or deemed locally, what's the term? Locally significant by the Historic Commission. So I think maybe at this time, it sounded like they were going to be reaching out to the Historic Commission and seeing if that could be done. I think any, approval of this project to move forward to a full application would be contingent upon that happening. And if that doesn't happen, then it doesn't qualify for historic preservation because that's required by CPA law. So. Yes, we have a comment. Could you come up to the microphone and?
Jim Terrapane, representing the museum. So is the Historic Commission's approval contingent on accepting the pre-application?
I think we could move forward and say that this project can move forward at this point. But that in order to actually receive funding, it does have to be deemed locally significant by the Historic Commission.
Has everyone got a chance to look at what this looks like?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I can answer any other questions if
Okay.
anyone
Yeah,
has.
yeah.
Matt,
Giannis?
I have one question. So is it correct to say that this exists today and that there are some components that need to be refabricated
Right,
for its
it's
actual
pretty
function?
straightforward. It's a historical restoration. It's a one-of-a-kind, unique item that was manufactured here. In 25 years of being involved with the museum, this has never come up anywhere, literally in the world. And it's 90% there. All the main machines are there. Just some of the original structure has been lost somewhere. So that's the project, is to replicate the original structure that goes with the machines and some electrical component restoration. And I just want to add, this is a wonderful educational tool. This would be a centerpiece at the museum. It's a educational tool on many levels and well worth it. A lot of people will get to see this. You know, we're starting to get a real good visitorship at the museum now, hundreds of people a year, school programs coming in. So this will definitely get a lot of attention and educational purposes. So, and it's pretty modest. It's I think $1,000 would do it, under $1,000, and very doable. And in a, certainly, within a year or so. I mean, it wouldn't be like a drawn out process.
I think Dave's got a.
Looks like a fascinating piece of machinery. I'm not sure what it does.
It's a miniature, well, it's a model scale machine shop. It has all the components of one of the educational components is it includes all the basic machining, metal machining principles in one unit. So, and it's actually very functional. I mean, you could make just about anything
Really?
with the skills if you had them. This was made available to the average person. It was most of the parts were mass produced, and it was a model scale machine shop that you could was totally functional. So we want to get it back to that point. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, John.
Sure. Yeah, so I will say, as a representative of the Historic Commission, that the museum has reached out to us and is on the agenda for our next meeting, where we will take this up. And I would say fair to assume that we would support the project. Jim I don't know if you did mention, but this is all built in Greenfield. So this is a Greenfield made machine.
Absolutely.
So it's not just a lathe. What makes it, I think, cooler for historic preservation, it's actually was built in Greenfield. So, and at the time when it was made was an exemplar of machine technology innovation at that time. So
yeah, it's approximately 100 years old product. We're really lucky to have it.
All right. Does anyone have any other comments or questions before voting on this one? All right, hearing none, we'll vote on allowing this one to move forward with the full application. All in favor? All right, that is unanimous. I see all hands up. So that one can move forward with a full application. Okay, we only have 4 left. Let's see. So George Tolumtsis, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes.
All right, Safe Bicycle Link. So I guess, so this one has recreation checked, creation and potentially acquisition checked as well. Yeah, essentially this would be, hold on, there's a lot of text here, so I'm scanning. So a significant gap in the bicycle shared use paths is between Greenfield and Old Deerfield, which currently requires traveling 3 miles on routes 5 and 10. And creating a link would avoid, having this section need to be on the road. So before yes, John.
Sure. So there's a lot of good stuff in here, but there's a lot in here. And I think that, speaking for myself, but there's a lot to get through. And I think that what's the focus is when I read through it, I read through it again and I was like, okay, so what exactly are they asking for? Because there's a lot going on. And I totally love the idea of bicycles and supporting all the aspects of it. But I think, and I'm sure the other members we're going to probably ask, there's so much, what would you really focus on?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you. So that comes to some of the research I've done in the last couple of weeks since submitting that. I conferred with Senior Transportation Planner at FERCog, Megan Rhodes, who directed me to a 2009 Franklin County Bikeway update, which referenced this exact proposal, which it references the 2000 Deerfield Master Plan, which had the same proposal of making an off-road link from Old Deerfield to Greenfield. I've also conferred with the Greenfield Director of Planning and Development, Eric Twarg, who was very supportive of this, and also with Christy Moore, of the Recreation Department, is also supportive and said they've been talking about this for years. And both Eric and to the point you were making, John, that they were both saying the key issue is a feasibility study, because in the 2009, it references the potential barriers, which would be wetlands, of having something off-road. There is, as I mentioned in the pre-application, there's a dirt road that comes up pretty far from Old Deerfield, but connecting that to another path coming from the north would be the challenge. And it would be an issue of wetlands and land acquisition primarily would be the potential barriers. So they were suggesting looking into feasibility study, as was Megan. Megan conferred with another colleague who is referring me to a few people in the Open Space and Rec Commission in Deerfield. Haven't heard back from them yet. And Megan also mentioned that the Mass Department of Transportation has been doing some rehab of Route 510. They've completed it around South Deerfield, but they're moving north, and to try to have better cycling infrastructure. So this could be timely in that regard too, to have some kind of a feasibility study. They have not designed, she was saying, yet the part for the north, and this could dovetail with that potentially.
Okay,
So the idea would be a feasibility.
Yeah,
study.
so this would be a feasibility study to study how this would work. And then, and I guess just to let everyone who's listening know that we when we were learning about CPA and, what kind of projects can be funded, we did learn that, a lot of times feasibility studies do get funded with CPA funds. And then, that person can also come back and get funding for doing the actual project later, contingent on.
We actually did that for a bike path, to get the bike path started, and then we could get it on the, with the MPO, you can get it on the transportation plan with the state if it's going down state highway right away. This takes a while. If you got a wetland, you got to cross the river. There's a lot of work that's going to need to be done, but it's a great project. It's certainly something that we could do.
Yeah, in response to that, the river crossing would be the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And in both the Deerfield Master Plan of 2000 and the 2009 FERCog Bikeway update, they mentioned that a new river crossing would probably be cost prohibitive and unfeasible. So the idea would be to use the existing bridge, the Cheapside Bridge over 510, somehow make that more bike friendly, the lead up to that in Greenfield, and then getting over that bridge, and then somewhere shortly after that, getting off the roadway. And so that would be the question, is that feasible? So.
Yeah, Garth.
As you know, I'm a big cyclist. I go there all the time. The main problem that I see with this project, at least as presented, is that it's primarily in Deerfield, and this is CPA funds for Greenfield. So going up to that bridge, they've actually, I think it was actually Mass Dot, even not the town, recently redid that whole section of Deerfield Street. So they don't sweep the bike lanes, so they're, filled with glass and, broken tire bits and whatever else. But there are, in fact, I would say reasonable accommodations up to the bridge. And so I'm not quite sure what sorry, what additional the CPA would do on the greenfield side.
Before you respond, I just want to add that the CPC can fund projects in other towns. So like, even if this was to build a bike path in Deerfield, we could still fund that. That would be up to our discretion to do that. So if you had anything else you wanted to add, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't know that, so that's good to know. But even the feasibility study, I think, this would obviously benefit Greenfield to have this connection. And so I think that at least funding the feasibility study, which might, with some collaboration with Deerfield, generate them, because one of the folks I was going to collaborate with is the chair of their CPC. So so it might be some collaborative effort, and starting with the feasibility study would just maybe get a lot of things moving. So thanks.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments or questions? Seems pretty straightforward, maybe. Giannis?
I don't know if we've done this, but if not, I make a motion that we allow this to move to a full application.
All right. Seconded by Susan. So yeah, motion to move forward. Any further discussion?
And moving forward
With a full
as a
application.
full application, as a feasibility study for
Yes.
Greenfield Deerfield bike path link.
Thank you. Yes. All right. All in favor of that motion? Aye. Yep. Okay, that is also unanimous. I see all hands up. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, got 3 left here. W. Kim Boas. Yeah, we're almost at 7. So just real quick, before we get to that one, CPC members, do we want to continue going forward right now and try to get through more, or I see 2 thumbs up.
Personally, I think I have to go, but I'm happy to relinquish my right to vote on these. And
Okay. I
can
mean,
abstain.
if we have a quorum, we could continue.
I have to leave also. I have a 7:30 meeting.
Okay, we have 2 people leaving. Okay, 3 people leaving. Yeah, so that would leave 6 of us if 3 people leave. Okay,
I'd be in favor of trying to,
yes, that would be a quorum.
Yeah, you try finishing
trying to do
up.
another
Yeah.
15 minutes and see if we can get through.
Okay. All right. Okay, so it is 6:58, and if anyone wants to leave before this next project starts, feel free, and we'll. Okay, so Tom and Giannis and are leaving at 6:58 p.m. Just to note for the record. Thank you. All right, so next we have W. Kim Boas, Temple Woods Trail Restoration. This one has recreation, preservation, rehabilitation, and restoration checked. This project entails restoration and preservation of recreational trails in Templewood section of Highland Park. These trails have been severely eroded to the point of creating hazardous conditions. Other trails, particularly the main red trail, aka Bears Den Road, have the beginnings of serious erosion problems. Trail repairs to create better drainage patterns, restore grades, repair and install stairs, and improve access and use of trails are all part of this project. An initial consultation with the Appalachian Mountain Club to assess the trails was completed, and a more detailed restoration plan with costs is forthcoming. So, any initial thoughts or emotion on that one? Yeah. All right. A motion to move forward by John, seconded by Susan. Just so you know, just to note that you didn't have your microphones on, but I
Sorry, I make a
what you said.
motion to move
Second.
it forward.
All right. So any questions, comments, concerns on this one? I guess I'll just note. Okay, thanks. I guess I would just note again that the preservation.
This would be rehabilitation of an existing,
I
right?
think so, yeah. I mean, I guess one thing to consider on this one is whether this is rehabilitation or maintenance
Yeah, that's certainly what I thought too. That's another discussion.
Do you want to come up to the microphone and explain why this is not maintenance to us?
When you maintain something, you have a plan to maintain it.
Yeah, if you could turn your microphone on.
Green. Hi. The last name is Boas, B-O-A-S. No special pronunciation, just straightforward. If there were a plan for maintenance and they were doing something to maintain it, it would be maintenance. But when there's no plan, you don't have maintenance. And so now you have failure or about to fail. You have gullies going down the main road, Bears Den Road, right by the bend in the trail, the main trail. That's only going to get worse, and that trail is going to fail. Now, you can walk on a failed trail. There are numerous failed trails that I walk on a regular basis there. But what they do is cause other trails to fail by blocking drainage, by increasing erosion down other existing trails where they join up. And that's what's happened. There is no maintenance. There is no plan. And we've reached the point where you need to do something to begin to address it, even though you need a plan and you need to do maintenance, but there's nothing there.
I just, before you get to that, I just want to clarify, and just to state what it says in the CPA legislation for the definitions. For maintenance, it says incidental repairs which neither materially add to the value of the property nor appreciably prolong the property's life, but keep the property in a condition of fitness, efficiency, or readiness. And for rehabilitation, it says capital improvements or the making of extraordinary repairs to any of the applicable resources. So I guess that's the difference in the CPA law. So go ahead, John.
Yeah, so who have you partnered with? Have you spoken with the rec department?
I walked with Phil Elmer and the Appalachian Mountain Club, because they do this kind of work. They work with AmeriCorps people. They also have professional people who will do this work, walking the trails. We discussed maintenance versus restoration, rehabilitation. And their opinion was, this is not a maintenance project. This is a repair and rehabilitation project.
And just to get to, I think John's point is that since this is a city recreation property, the city's recreation department has to be a co-applicant on the project, and they have to be the ones that receive the funding. So
I submitted a brief report in 2021 to the recreation department. I really didn't hear anything back. I followed up with my counselor. I was referred to someone who's on the rec commission. I emailed them. I got nothing back, no response. I have forwarded, I'm also on the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee. That committee has that. I forward, so obviously DPW has it. I tried reaching out to the rec department, asking them whether or not they had anything in the works regarding something like this. I have not seen an email. Maybe she sent it, but I haven't seen it. So yes, I've tried, but I have not been successful. That doesn't mean I won't continue to try.
okay, I guess I would just say that would be a requirement for this to receive funding. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, as a member of the Recreation Commission, I just want to let you know that we actually did read your letter and we talked about it at length. And yes, there was someone who was supposed to reach out to you who unfortunately had some health problems. And so this is one of those situations where things fell through the cracks. You were actually on my mind. The email that I got didn't have your address and phone number, so I'm glad that I now have that information. I was also thinking to potentially refer you to Nancy Hazard, who does a lot of, there's a lot of, in terms of this area, it seems like there's a lot of overlap and there's a lot of energy, and I would really like to see some sort of synergy that happens with these projects. And I would also add that I think it's great that you've already walked and reached out with the Appalachian Mountain Club. It sounds like you're in a really good place to move forward. So I apologize on behalf of the Recreation Commission for.
That's fine. I know that you have a lot going on, so don't take that
John.
personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the point where we should hear from Christy.
Yeah.
Because she's kind of the boss of that. And, if Christy kind of concurs that they would support the project, I think we all, I mean, I love walking there. I'm totally support the project, but I think, yeah, obviously they're going to have to shepherd it with you.
Absolutely.
So can we hear from Christy, I think?
Christy, if you would.
Hello. Yes, Donna, thank you for speaking on behalf of the department and the Rec Commission. I have not seen his application, so I asked Christian to send it to me. So if you can, Christian, that'd be great. Obviously, the trail system does fall under the Rec Department, and there are not people in the DPW or the Rec Department who are experts in trail maintenance. We've had former rec commissioners who have been heavily involved with the NIMBA, the Mountain Biking Association, who've wanted to do work, but it has never made it to the top of our list, sadly. But certainly I would support reading whatever documents he has received and seeing if we can make this happen, whether it's this year or next year.
Okay. Thank you. Any other
Call
questions?
the question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Call the question.
Okay. So the motion was to allow the restoration and preservation of hiking trails in Temple Woods project to move forward with a full application. All in favor of that motion? Aye.
Understanding that the full application would have to be with the rec department as the controllers of that area.
Yes. Okay, so that was unanimous among the many members who are still here. Okay. All right, thank you. So Dave is leaving at 7:07 p.m. We have 2 projects left. The next project is Historical Society Preserving Documents and Artifacts. This one has checked historic preservation, project purpose, preservation, rehabilitation, and restoration. It says the Historical Society received a great number of documents and artifacts from the founding of the town through 2020, a donation from the estate of Peter Miller, past local historian of the town, Historical Society president and head of the Historic Commission. This historic resource is currently at risk due to the need to get precious documents into archival housing, clean and rehabilitate artifacts, and make careful restorations as needed. Funds granted would pay for staff hours dedicated to preserving this resource and archival supplies necessary for this work. Right.
I will motion to move that.
Could you turn?
I
Second.
motion to move that forward.
Second.
All right, motion for the application to move forward. It was seconded. Yes, John.
I guess I would ask you, Travis, can you crunch out the details on how it fits and how it would work in terms of our CPA?
Yeah, so I mean, my understanding is that like the previous historical project, I think the what word did they use? This like cache of resources would need to be determined to be locally significant by the Historic Commission. Again, I think all historic projects need to either be that or on the state historic register. So they would also need to come before the Historic Commission to do that.
Yeah, so I guess my question beyond that would be, are there caveats on what kind of things we can fund, like paying for staff to work on things, or, like, are there limitations on that kind of stuff?
Not to my knowledge. I think as long as it's paying for something that's going to be restoring or preserving a historic resource, we can fund it. As long as the Historic Commission thinks that it is locally significant. And yeah, I've seen other, okay. Caveat is don't use the database of other projects around the state to see like what is allowable, because sometimes projects make it in that are not allowable. But there are a lot of projects where people, do fund that type of thing, like funding, staff hours to
Okay.
do the work. Yes.
I guess just one of the questions I have, which is not in terms of this proposal, is that all of these papers and such would be available to the public. And that's not included in this description. And I think that would have to be, from my perspective, would have to be part of the process, or it wouldn't work.
Yeah. And I guess maybe I guess I wouldn't want it to get too specific with that wording. Like, it's not going to be available to the public at all times.
My concern is
rotating
that,
in and out.
is that sometimes historical objects and such get taken care of and then they get put away and the public does not see them.
Yeah.
And I think that it doesn't even have to be the originals. It could be copies of the originals, but that preservation has to be connected to the, if we're talking about the history of Greenfield, people have to learn it, and they can't learn it if they don't see it. And that's my only thing about this.
And I just wanted to add that I did respond to this email when it came in and let them know that they would need to go to the Historic Commission to get that, what it says in the CPA law about historic preservation. Yeah, Donna.
Yeah, I don't see anything in here about digitization, but if that's a possibility, then that would ensure that it's always available. So that might be something that we could suggest as part of this project.
And that could be part of like the full, once we receive full applications, we can kind of negotiate on what the project is going to be, I think. So that could be part of it at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll definitely share that. And it's on our agenda for next meeting. So,
okay, great. Cool. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so we'll vote on allowing Preserving Greenfield's History was the name of the project to move forward with a full application.
Peter Miller's slice of Greenfield's history, which is a pretty significant slice of it.
All right, all in favor? Okay, anyone opposed? No. Okay, so that one is unanimous among the remaining members. So we have one project left. That is the First United Methodist Church bathroom accessibility / energy efficiency renovation. So this one has historic preservation checked, preservation support, rehabilitation, and restoration. It says there are 2 projects. If either of them qualify, that's what it says. One was update downstairs restroom to bring up to code to be more accessible for support groups that meet in the fellowship hall 4 nights a week. 15 to 50 people attend these meetings to help with some form of addiction. These spaces are also considered for use by the after-school music program that currently meets at the temple and may be a convenient location for the town's winter farmers market. Second project is replace or repair windows in the lower level library space to make it more energy efficient. This room also offers a convenient and comfortable meeting space for groups and is being considered by the music program. So Christian, do you know, so I'll just add that I don't remember what year it was, but 2018 or something like that, there was a lawsuit against the CPC because they funded the restoration of a religious themed, what's that called? Stained glass window in a church. And ultimately it was decided that the CPCs can't fund a church project if it's, I don't have exact wording, so don't quote me on this, but it was like, if it's, like directly benefiting church purposes, it has to be, if it's like benefiting the public at large. And they recommended, the Community Preservation Coalition on their website recommends that CPCs reach out to legal counsel to look at any projects from a church, just to make sure that it's following that. And Christian, I think contacted, like the mayor's office was gonna have the legal counsel look into that, and I don't know if we got a response at this point.
We have not heard back yet, but they are looking into it, and it looks like
Okay.
the applicants are here.
Okay. And we do have the applicants here. Yeah, if it's green, then it's on.
So the project we're looking at, and I mentioned a couple because I'm not sure exactly what would qualify. I think the most important one for us would be making the downstairs bathrooms more handicap accessible. And this isn't to support the religious aspect of the church. It's not to support the congregation. It's more to support all the different groups that use the building, which has grown quite a bit in the last year. I mean, we now have groups, 4 different groups using it on a regular basis. We also have other groups that are, for instance, we have another group who's doing a presentation there on Saturday. We have other groups that use some of the space there on occasion. We have like the Montague Band that comes in or used to come in before COVID and would rehearse there. And then the big thing is we were working with the after school music program, who is very interested in starting to use the church next year to do it's 3 days a week. It's about 2 to 3 hours a day. I'm not sure how many kids would be involved, but it sounds like it's a pretty substantial after school program. And it's convenient for them because a lot of the kids would walk right down from that. Is that Federal Street School?
Fed School Elementary.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So they would be also using the downstairs space. So the downstairs space, we call it Fellowship Hall because really that's what it is. It's for the community to use, for fellowship, for support. And in the bathrooms that are there, the church was built in 1886. So the bathrooms there, we cannot touch them unless they're properly vented, which they're not now. So the first step is to, do a plan to properly vent them and then make them, at least one of them, there's 2 bathrooms there, at least make one of them handicap accessible, which is currently not. So that's our main focus because, when groups come in, I say, well, we have bathrooms, but they're, they always ask, are they handicap accessible? And we say, no, not really.
Yes, go ahead.
So I guess I would ask, what are the groups like specifically that would benefit other than church groups?
Oh,
Can I
sure.
answer this?
Yes, you can.
We have addict recovery groups that meet in our church. They're anonymous groups like Al-Anon and others, 4 nights a week, Monday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and they use those unrenovated bathrooms. We have the Saturday group that's coming in this Saturday is Racial Justice Rising, which doesn't meet on a regular basis in our church, but this Saturday they are hosting a program in Fellowship Hall. They'll have to use those bathrooms. The bathrooms are not currently ADA compliant, nor are they compliant with the local building code. Their building inspector has allowed us to get away with using them.
Because we're grandfathered
Yeah,
in, but we can't
we-
touch them
we have-
until we bring them up to code.
We have to renovate them.
Right, so, yeah, and the Racial Justice Rising, when we first met with them, their plan was to maybe meet on a monthly basis. So their meetings could become much more, on a regular basis. Yeah. And we've also talked about maybe trying to host the winter farmers market because I think our location is, it's kind of ideal in that it's within walking of downtown. So I think our building could really prove beneficial to the community if the space is more ADA compliant.
So if I could just add, I found the webpage that I was looking for, where just to clarify, in that lawsuit that happened previously, the plaintiff said that the anti-aid amendment requires unequivocal and unqualified ban on grants of public funds to churches, but the Supreme Judicial Court disagreed, and they, quote, said, "We can imagine various circumstances where such grants would survive careful scrutiny, including, for instance, where historical events of great significance occurred in the church, or where the grants are limited to preserving church property with a primarily secular purpose." And it says the second example is a reference to an Acton case where some of the funds were to be spent on 2 historic houses that the church owns. But the houses were residents and not used for religious purposes. So I guess one question I have is, this is it's a historic preservation project. Again, as I've said about the previous projects, all historic preservation projects, the thing that's being restored has to either be on the state registry of historic places or deemed locally significant by the Historic Commission. So that would be one step. That would,
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would really, I mean, I know I checked off historical, but I
Yeah.
think this is more rehabilitation kind of.
I don't think we're
Or-
currently a historical
yeah.
structure, even though it's right on the edge of the historical district. It's right on the corner of Church and Franklin Street, but we're on the outside.
Yeah.
We're not.
So
I think it certainly has some significance with the Historical Society, but our project is more for, like I said, rehabilitation and
yeah, and I guess
use by the community.
yeah, so it has to fit into either open space, historic preservation, community housing, or recreation. Like it has to be one of those. So I'm not sure because like, fixing up the bathrooms and the windows, like it's not restoring them to like a historic,
It's specifically, fortunately, making them non-historic bathrooms. Right? We don't want 2 holers down there.
John, I don't know what you're saying, but your microphone wasn't on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds more like maintenance. I mean, I think that it certainly could be eligible to be significantly historic, as the chair of the Historic Commission, and you'd be welcome to come to our meeting. I can put you on the agenda and you could talk to those folks and hear their input about it. And because it seems like to me, seeing the way this evening's has unfolded, that it would kind of hinge a little bit on the Historic Commission to say, well, if this is significant to the rehabilitation of your structure of a historic site, and I'm sure there's plenty of historic things that have happened there over the years, whatever, and it's a landmark, then that could possibly be the way to fund it. But I think other than that, as much as I might love the project, it seems a little tough because of the lack of broad beneficiaries to it. You know what I mean? That's my personal, I feel like, and not speaking that's just for myself, but as a common townsfolk person, be like, well, how many thousands of people are going to see it? I don't know. I'm just, thinking out loud, but you know what I mean?
So if I could just add one thing from the definition of rehabilitation projects on CPA law, again, it does say that capital improvements or making extraordinary repairs to historic resources, open space, lands, recreation use, and housing for the purpose of making such historic resources, open space, lands for recreational use and community housing functional for their intended uses, including but not limited to improvements to comply with Americans with Disability Act and other federal, state, or local building or access codes. Provided that with respect to historic resources, rehabilitation shall comply with the standards for rehabilitation stated in the United States Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. So that sets a high bar for what historic restoration has to be on a historic project. So
I think it said it was allowed to make it ADA compliant. right?
Yeah,
Isn't that what you said, what you read?
that it does say included but not limited to improvements to comply with Americans with
Right.
Disabilities Act. But
what I think what Travis is kind of getting at too is that it could end up costing more than you might need to spend to make it just functional, which is kind of what you want to do. But
I don't think so for the space we're looking at. I mean, that would probably be more something that would be submitted in the final application.
Yep.
If I really thought it was going to be exorbitant amount, I wouldn't have, applied.
Yeah, I could say like, come to our meeting and I think that would be potentially a next step, but we'll see what you.
Donna's got a question.
So yeah, a few things. I mean, I looked at this one and sort of struggled with how it fits. I think that probably the historic preservation is your only hook. And certainly we do prioritize ADA compliance and also community spaces. And so I felt like those were the two where it kind of gelled a little bit for me. I guess my one question is, do you charge for use of the space? Because I don't know if that would.
Make a donation.
Okay.
Is the fellowship hall itself accessible? Like you said, it's a basement. Is there like 5 steps down to it, or there's a ramp?
Through one door, there's a few steps, but there's also like a Lula lift to get down. That's
Yes,
working
you can get in there with
with a
a
wheelchair.
wheelchair or a walker.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not the bathroom.
I think my inclination is to vote to allow it to move forward with the understanding that, if it is, it's historic, so it has to be deemed locally significant by the Historic Commission. And if it's a historic preservation, it has to meet the United States Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. And we have to hear back from the city's attorney, in relation to CPA law and how that works with funding for churches, church projects.
Just in case this doesn't work, you might want to talk to MJ Adams about community development block grant money. MJ Adams, who's the head of economic and community development for the city, MJ Adams, and talk with her about community development block grant funds. Because there may be a way for those funds to be used for what you need if we can't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, John.
The other thing I would.
It's for a block grant.
Oh,
I could
okay.
ask her. Okay, thank you.
The other thing I would mention is potentially the tech school could maybe do some of that work.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
that-
was actually thinking of them for, oh no, it was for the jail, the program through the jail. Maybe it could help with the graffiti removal on Poets Tower.
Yeah. But anyway, the tech school could be a pretty good option too.
Yeah. No, thank you for that suggestion. Oh, do I need to turn this on?
Right.
Before we leave, I
I'll
want
write it
to
down.
thank you for, what are you writing?
Tech school.
I want to thank you all for, I know this is overtime for you, and thank you all for hanging around.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for being here.
First time through, so we're all learning as we go.
Yeah. So,
Motion to adjourn.
well, we haven't voted on this one yet.
Call the question.
Okay. All right. So did we make a motion? Did we make a motion? I'm going to the record over here to see if we made a motion.
I did not write down the.
Okay, we did not have a
To
motion.
allow to. So motion to allow to go forward pending legal and historical
Approval.
approvals.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a second on that? All right. Seconded by John. Any other discussion on this?
Call the question.
Okay. All right. So voting to allow this project to move forward with a full application. Aye. Okay. That is unanimous. So you can move forward with a full application. Knowing that there are all those outstanding things about getting it, it has to be.
Yeah, so we're gonna,
Christie,
we meet the first
on it.
Thursday of the month at 5 o'clock here at the Zahn Center. And
Where?
right here in the small room, we meet in the small room. And I will put you on the agenda, and after, when the meeting's adjourned, I'll get your contact information so that we can communicate. And all right. Thanks.
Okay. I think Wisty had something.
So I'm just wondering, I'm just thinking it would be helpful if like once applications come in, if we had a list of priorities, like from the rec department. I mean, what if we decided to fund something and it was on the bottom of Christie's priority list? That would like not be so good. And the other thing is I really am concerned about positively. I'm thrilled that so many people want to do stuff about Highland Park, but it seems like the whole project needs to be coordinated. Like if you put in good paths and trails, they ought to be consistent through the park, and I don't know what to do. Like,
I guess that's
Part of our discussion.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
part of our
part of the
further
discussion.
discussion, but also unfortunately kind of falls on Christie's shoulders to like,
I know,
if
she
she's
better-
the co-applicant on various projects in one
Yeah.
spot. Unfortunately, that's kind of her role, I guess.
And I mean, at least the ones that have been put forth here, there's no reason you can't have, signage as a project, even if some of the trails are washed out.
But
Or-
if there's only X amount of money, I'm gonna
Yeah.
pretend, let's
Right, right.
pretend there's $40,000. Maybe the rec,
Well, we look at each of these related to the priorities that we put out in the plan and our, personal foibles and
what I mean.
I guess
thi-
I would reiterate that I think it would be helpful if an applicant has multiple projects in to let us know which are the priorities or rank them maybe. I know that puts Christie in a tough spot, having like different, everyone who submitted one of those is that one is their top priority,
Right.
but
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the projects I think are driven a little bit more by the rec department. They kind of put them forward. And then there's some that people kind of came in off the street and they're like, yeah, this is something I want to do. And I want them to help me. And then we could debate what gives it more merit or not. I mean, like you said, something could be on the bottom of the list, but if the taxpayer or the person says like, dude, we really need this, then maybe that would go to the top of the list, because then they're going to come in, they're going to drive that project. They're going to kind of make it happen. Whereas otherwise it could languish for years until, you know what I mean?
well,
And I guess we'll have to see. Have to see how the next phase, if they flesh these out.
yeah, Susan.
Yeah, I think we've got a ranking system. And I think that'll help us figure this out. And then if we find with the ranking system that we have questions, then I think it's time to go to Christie and say to her, we got 4 things, they're all pretty much equal. Is there something, whether one's more feasible, whether, we can ask those questions, but we do have a system. It's not like we're just going to be sitting here going, I like this. We have a process that we've created, and I think we have to remember it.
Yeah.
Just following up on something we talked about last time regarding letting the applicants know the scoring criteria.
Right.
We need to make sure that we do that.
Yeah, that is on the website now.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay, good.
It's next to the application materials.
Okay. good.
Yes.
Thanks.
Travis, we had that discussion with folks from, there was the proposal writer from the city about the historical.
Yes.
Where is that?
That will be on our next agenda. I
Okay.
think.
All
I
right.
mean,
That's
but-
fine. I just didn't see it here, and I
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Then it can go on our next agenda. We don't have to
Yeah.
talk about
I
it.
mean, it's 7:30 now.
Yes,
so
I know.
I
that-
think we can. Okay, so I'm just gonna say, next, under other business on our agenda, we had scheduled additional meeting to review pre-apps if needed, but we got through them all. We're done with pre-apps for this year, so we don't need to do that. We approved all of them. So our next meeting is October 27th, 2022, 5:30 to 7 PM at City Hall Meeting Room. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? All right, motion to adjourn by John, seconded by Donna. All in favor of adjourning? All right, that is unanimous. We are adjourned at 7:35 PM. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Christy, for coming.
Thanks, Nancy.